reproductive health, rights, and justice needs. And I think, again, like there's the opportunity to bring the environmental justice perspective to that work in addressing reproductive health, rights, and justice needs in Atlanta and South Fulton and Clarkston. So that's another opportunity to engage. So we can share some of these, but I think by feeding into the form, we'll have more information of kind of what y'all think is important and what this sparked. I don't want your question to get lost, Gayla.
You're hilarious. But someone asked, what do you say to people that believe you should not have an abortion because it is a living human being? I'm gonna pass that to y'all.
Yeah. I mean, I think I always like try to answer those questions by having a conversation with them about what they mean by that and where those beliefs come from, because genuinely, like, I want to know if they believe it is a living human being because of a religious belief, or if that is coming from somewhere else, because I'm never in it to have a conversation to like disrespect someone's religion or religious convictions. But what I like to say is, you know, the reproductive justice does not force anybody to have an abortion. So everyone can make the decision for themselves whether or not they want to end a pregnancy or not. And if you believe it's a living being, then like I fully support your right to continue that pregnancy and the right of anyone to make that decision. But on the same hand, we must support people's right to decide what they want to do with their body, which includes ending a pregnancy. And like, it's not my role to debate with you when a life begins, because there are various different things that inform that decision, from science to religion, from just like personal beliefs. So I don't know if that was like a cut and dry answer, but I think it's more about engaging in a conversation with somebody and hopefully being able to find some shared ground and values to continue the conversation. No problem. I used to work a lot with an abortion fund, and we would do like abortion bake sales. And so we'd get a lot of wonderful questions like that. Better than being called a murderer, though, so I'll take it. Another question, I think, Kayla. Oh, maybe that was just from you because you're Briante.
That's hilarious. Well, I guess I just really wanted, like, for me, what I appreciate from this call is just talking about how connected our movements are. Because like previously, like the reason why I wanted to have this is to talk about it and to talk more through it. Like I appreciate you uplifting the fact that EJ and RJ is not population control. And just like from the different ways that we are responding to coronavirus is very much so informed by environmental kind of like climate politics, right? So basically I say that because if we, like, let's say healthcare is the umbrella in which we are talking about all of this, right? So if just like rural Georgia doesn't have to drive like 20-30 minutes to the nearest hospital, to the nearest trauma center or something like that. So God forbid there be an outbreak in a rural area, because this notion of like these people are valuable and these people are less valuable kind of informs how we advocate for who is being advocated for, honestly. Because that's what I'm really thinking about, how as an environmentalist, COVID-19, let me be specific. I'm just thinking about how so much of people's understanding of climate is different depending upon how you, like, who is it for, essentially. Just like in Italy, there's all this like pollution, and I won't say pollution, but a lot of the waterways and stuff like that are getting clearer, and people's first thought was like, oh, humans are terrible, we should just not be in Italy, essentially. When in reality, I'm like, that's an awesome opportunity to have a conversation with people who have these different boats and these different means of travel that are, you know, like crowding these waterways. Like, I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to have sustainable conversations about solutions, because if we keep saying like, oh, just recycle, or oh, just do this, then where do the actual solutions come from? Where does the actual advocacy for communities come from? But I don't know if that's a ramble or not, but yeah.
But kind of what you're saying though is it like exposes the system challenges in a way that I think like people don't inherently feel empowered to like address or talk about in typical environmental conversations, because it does often get reduced to the like individual level. And so like I hope I'm seeing that with the healthcare system too. Like a lot of people are like, well, maybe Medicare for all will actually be on the table now, because like we need government response and like healthcare provision. So these are opportunities to have bigger, more meaningful conversations and to analyze like how we got here and how it's impacting our ability to respond. And I do hope people are able to like to leverage this for those conversations. Because it's really interesting. And also something I've see the comment too. Okay. But the other thing I just wanted to lift up, Gayla, that I so appreciated about like just being able to work with you and to hear more about the work y'all do and the work that New Georgia Project is doing is just, I've always felt that the environmental movement is very like white centered and very out of touch. And like in the environmental justice movement, I'm like seeing much more how it fits in and also how it centers like the people and not just the environment. Because oftentimes it feels like we're like protecting and preserving the environment at the detriment of people and their livelihood, and almost like demonizing humans as like the perpetrators or the offenders of the environment, rather than thinking of as like as an ecosystem and centering people and their lives. So that is something I've taken away from these conversations, and that's helped me a lot.
Ooh.
I know Nadia has a comment.
Yeah, shout out to Nadia. Valerie said EJ has historically been a form of population control. Do you want to expound on like your point?
Well, I'm going to turn my mic on now if I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, please.
So historically,
I did make this point earlier, Valerie. I'll just put that out there in my defense.
I heard your shout out. Thank you. I appreciate that. So this is Valerie Ball. I'm from the New Georgia Project. And historically, the reason I said that, when you look at redlining, when you look at public safety, when you look at social determinants of health, lack of access to higher ed, to economic and community development, the systems that have been in place have allowed those historically to control a population and to dehumanize a population. So I would beg to differ that EJ has not or is not a form of population control, because it is, and it has been. And when you talk about environmental degradation and being a part of the heinous things that have happened and the trauma, let's roll back the clock couple 500 years. Can you imagine being shackled and people urinate and vomiting? And so we've been exposed to environmental injustice from the day that we were taken from the places that we naturally belonged in. So I'm going to get off my soapbox for now, ladies, but thank you so much for this evening and this information that you shared.
Thank you. I really appreciate you like uplifting enslavement specifically as like how also an environmental issue, and that like I know this is not what you meant, but when you said that, I think about the fact that the West Africans that were stolen from the land in West African were purposely stolen because they were farmers. And because they they were immune to some of the illnesses that colonizers were not immune to. So like And now, like, you made me think of this very historical notion of people of color's relation to the environment is very non-traditional. Like, Black people caring about the environment isn't like, oh, we're just some tree huggers. We're just, you know, we're going to go vegan. Like, very often, well, what I've seen is that Black people's engagement with environmental justice is directly tied to economic justice, is directly engaged with, I'm creating my own